Okay, I believe we're good and coming through. I'm going to look off to the side here and there to catch the monitor. I'm doing a little production and teaching today. Welcome to class. I'm Collette. Scott is off for today, so I will be with you the whole hour. Last week, we started working on inversions, which sounds scary and maybe a little tricky for some people and very exciting and wonderful for others. And we're looking for a way to bridge that gap. Um, so lots of options. If you're someone that needs to not just like put weight on your neck and shoulders and upper back, we're going to talk about that. There's going to be a lot you can do, even if you don't do the inverted pose every time. There's still a lot we're going to work on in the class. It's just helpful generally. Um, and then also just considering like you don't have to put weight on your head and neck and shoulders to do an inversion. Anything that puts your head below your heart or that shifts gravity so that your feet are up and your pelvis is down, any of that is giving you some of the inversion benefit. Standing and doing a forward bend is giving you some of that inversion benefit. It doesn't have to be doing a headstand or a shoulder stand to get a lot of the benefits of reversing the blood flow, reversing the pressure of gravity on your body, decompressing the spine, all those things that come with inverted positions, you can find in a lot of different ways. So we'll talk about that a little bit too. Last week, we worked on upper abdominal strength and the importance of that strength and opening through the upper back. We're going to continue with that a little bit, maybe focus on the neck and how the neck relates to the upper back and the chest and the upper abdominals, and review some of what we did last time as well. Maybe get into the shoulders a bit. So let's see what that is. I have a strap. You can use a kitchen towel or you can use a yoga strap. Let's start with some of the arm upper body work just to warm up this whole area. And then we'll come down to the mat and do some other things. So grab your strap or your towel and come up to standing. So set yourself up, feet about hip distance apart, and arms a little wider than your shoulders, hands a little wider than your shoulders, knuckles straight down, elbows slightly out to the side and bent. And then give a little pull out, like 10% pull, and then release that. And do that again. So let's start with that feeling from your upper back and tricep. Back of the shoulder, upper back of the shoulder and tricep. Inhale, little pull out, find the muscles. Exhale, release it. We're finding it each time. The more my triceps and upper back work, the less my neck and chest works. So we're exchanging work, not adding. Sometimes what happens is your chest is on and you add more work in your triceps. We want to exchange some of the work. Get the chest to let go because the triceps come on. And the rotator cuff, back of the shoulder, comes on. A couple more times, pulling out and bring it in and pull it out and bring it in. And then relax here for a moment. So I'm going to turn my back to you so you can see my shoulder blades. So we'll come back to the strap in just a second. You can keep it in your hands, but put your hands on your hips and just feel the movement of your shoulder blades now. So the shoulder blades coming together and apart. Now I could do this by pulling my elbows back and then my blades would indirectly come together. We want to see if you can get the shoulder blade muscles to do it. So think of your elbows staying almost in place and just moving your shoulder blades back and forth. So my elbows here don't really move back very much as my blades come together, a little bit, but mostly they're just kind of following, right? So that's the feeling I'm looking for, getting the shoulder blades together and then forward and apart to feel those muscles. And then in the spirit of exchanging work, not adding work, what do you feel in your neck when you pull your shoulder blades together? Does it get tighter? Does it stay the same? Is it possible to draw your blades together using the muscles in between your shoulder blades and then not using your neck, letting that stay more relaxed? You might have to make a smaller range of motion to do that, or you might just have to focus on it a little bit or slow down. And then relax that work. Okay, so third sort of layer of interference that sometimes happens is in the head and the neck, right? So this sort of forward and back. Sometimes I think about Chuck Berry. I think he did a dance like that, where he took his head forward and back. Somehow I maybe know that from watching Happy Days or something. But that like back and forth that happens with the head, just feel that a couple times back and forth. I have my hand on my chest so that I know I'm not doing this thing with my chest, right? I'm just like feeling the head forward and back. And as it goes back, especially, I think of lengthening and opening the back of the neck. Maybe it makes some double chin there. I've had some people tell me it makes more like a triple chin, jokingly, maybe not jokingly. Whatever, however many chins you need to add to get your head and neck back, to feel that opposing movement. So that movement right there sometimes happens unconsciously. As the blades go back, the head goes forward. As the blades go apart, the head goes back. So now, not taking the head forward and back, noticing what that feels like to just move your shoulder blades. All of this might make the movement feel smaller. Sometimes people say, well, I'm not really doing anything. It's not really true, right? You're doing something. There's some movement. It's just that you had 4 things moving before and now you have 1 thing moving. So you're doing less. And that doing less allows you to isolate smaller muscle groups, more specific muscle groups. And then release that work with the shoulder blades. Okay, so let's go back to the strap. With the strap, you're going to feel wide shoulder blade position. You want to feel wide shoulder blade position. You want to feel head a little more back in line. You don't have to have a double, triple, quadruple chin, but you are going to open the back of your neck. You do want to feel a resistance to the head going forward. So awareness of those 2 places as we go into the strap pulls again, pulling out and then release it. And inhale, pulling out, open the back of the neck, relax the chest, widen the shoulder blades. And one more time, hold that position and that work. Now, same directive as you take your arm up to a little below shoulder height without pulling your blades together, without tightening your chest, without your head coming forward. Up and down. Inhale. And exhale. Three more. And last one coming up. Hold it there. Now in this position, we're going to play with those same things. What happens if you move your shoulder blades back without pitching your head forward, without bending your elbows, without lifting your chest? And then feel your blades get wider. Now maybe you can see my arm is moving back as my blades come together, but I'm not changing my arm. My blades are slowly pulling my arms a little back, and then my knuckles are reaching forward, my blades get wider. And thinking of it almost like kind of tug of war, right? Like shoulder blade is pulling the arm back, but like there's some resistance there with the hand. So it has kind of a slow pull back from the blade and then a slow reach forward from the knuckle. And you don't ever get slack in the arm. Surprisingly fatiguing, I think. And then lower your arms down and relax everything. So you saw that like head, neck feeling. We're going to go back up and stabilize the position. Knuckles forward, shoulder blades really open, head not pitched forward. We'll do the out and in. Wide shoulder blades as you do it. Pull out, release the tension. Inhale, pull out, and exhale, release it. Each time you pull out, you get a little wider in your shoulder blades, a little more relaxed in your chest. The head just gently floating back, opening the back of the neck. Doesn't have to be too much effort. One more time, pull out and hold that. And then let's take the overhead. Now the shoulder blades get to glide upwards. And then back down. And inhale, shoulders come up, blades come up. Maybe do a little check-in, release. Back down. Inhale, gliding up. And back down. And reaching up. And back down. Two more. And last one. And lowering down. Okay, so let's put the strap to the side. We'll come back to it a little later. So opening the upper back, one thing I like is to do some of that work that feels like it just kind of like digs into my neck and chest and deep shoulder muscles. And then to feel like, can I just like passively release some of that upper back work? We do this all the time, rolling up and down with the spine. Last week we talked about how that forward bend is really an inversion. We take the abdominal organs, we flip them upside down. They put a little pressure on the diaphragm. That changes how I exhale when I'm upside down. It's like I can really release that way. The head hanging down creates some decompression in the spine, releasing all those vertebrae. So those things really helpful in flipping the blood flow in that way. So here we are, bend your knees a little bit. All that work with the arms, let it go, let them hang. And then we start with triple, quadruple chin, opening the back of the neck, softening your chest as you roll a little farther forward. Feel how the shoulder blades widen a little more. The arms hang off your upper back. Take a moment with just the upper back bent, not quite bent down into your lower back. Could you relax a little more through your upper back, the back of your lungs, back of your ribs, and feel the weight of the arms? And then continue that. The head's going to keep slowly floating towards upside down. As it gets a little lower and it becomes upside down, all the spaces in between your neck vertebrae releasing, the upper back getting to have a little space as the weight of the head creates a little bit of pull on the spine until you're all the way upside down. And the focus isn't on straight legs, hamstring stretch. The focus is on letting the spine feel upside down, the head and the upper back release. So I bend my knees in order to feel that. It's possible to do with straight legs, but sometimes my spine feels kind of tight when I do it with straight legs. So a little bit of bend feels better. Maybe a lot of bend feels better. Play with it a little bit. What gives you the most ease and release and decompression in your spine?
Now let's take a reverse. Rolling up, bend your knees, sink your pelvis, and let your spine gently stack back up. Arms are still heavy, blades are still wide, upper back super open until you find your way all the way through your chin back position. Head over the ribs, blades a little forward, a little more open. Same thing again. Drop the chin in a little bit, soften the chest. Feel how the arms hang and open the shoulder blades and the upper back. As you continue forward, the head dropping towards that real upside down space. Working through your spine. Arms keep hanging. And rolling up, knees bend, pelvis drops. Arms still hang. Working through your spine. One more time. This time we'll use it to transition to the floor, rolling through. And then however you like, working your way down to the mat, maybe bending your knees to a squat or coming to hands and knees. And all the way to sitting. So that right there, I think, is one of the most pleasant inversions, depending on how your head feels upside down for a lot of people. That feeling of articulating your spine and getting everything to release and letting the weight of the head create some passive stretch on the spine. A lot of people report that's a very pleasant feeling. It brings your focus internal, which is nice. It lets your breath soften a little bit as that happens, which is nice. And then it gives you just a bit of that inversion benefit. It's a really simple thing you can do for just about everybody. So we're going to work towards this feeling of the upper back opening all the way through the head and neck, and the position that a lot of inverted type poses put you in, right? Like a shoulder stand position in the upper back. We're going to look at that alignment here. We're going to use your strap or a towel. I'm going to set up both just so you can see. With your strap, you have it doubled over. I have a blue strap and a blue mat, so it might be a little hard to see, but I have my long doubled over strap. I'm just going to put it right in the center of the mat. And then I'm going to end up lying with my spine on the strap. If you don't have a strap and you're using a towel, you're going to have a slightly different approach. So I'm going to take my kitchen towel and fold it. It's not really horizontally or vertically, long ways in half. And then I'm going to take it across so it's wide. My head is going to sit and be cradled by the towel. So figure out what works for you. If you're lying on the strap, you want about 6 or 8 inches above your head of strap. And then if you're lying on the towel, you want your head on the towel. So then once you're there, take a moment and feel yourself on your back. Feel your upper back. We did all that work feeling the blades, how they come together or are wide. We're going to go more for that wide feeling, but also just kind of a natural position to start. What does it feel like on your back? For some people, when they lie on their back, they don't feel their blades at all. They really just feel their spine, right? Their spine really pushes into the floor. Other people might feel their blades a ton and not really feel their spine. Their spine feels a little lifted. And then, of course, anywhere in between. So what's it like for you? Take a moment. And then just relax into whatever it is. It could be relaxing your chest. And as you relax your chest, that allows your upper back to release a little more. It could be your neck you think about relaxing through the jaw and the front of the neck. And that allows the head to float back into line and the back of the neck to open. You might do a little check-in with your pelvis. Sometimes the pelvis just randomly tightens. Also be good. Now we're going to take both arms up to the ceiling and then a little wider than we normally do. So not shoulder distance apart. Remember when you were holding the strap, you were standing up and your strap was right out in front of you? Go to that position basically. So hands are a little wider than your shoulders. Now what happened for me is my hands went wider than my shoulders, then suddenly my shoulder blades kind of pulled together. So now I'm going to think back to that strap feeling where my shoulder blades are still wide. It's a little bit of work, but also my hands are wide. I just have to, I can actually feel my triceps come on a little bit as I do that. Now take your palms, if they're not already like this, flip your palms so they're pointing towards each other. And then bend your elbows like you were hugging a tree until your fingertips come more together. Just kind of feel that position. Look at where your elbows are and just get a picture of that. They're a little wider than your shoulders, but they're not a lot wider than your shoulders. Okay, so whatever you're going to do, if you're going to hold the towel, you're going to bunch up the towel on either end so you can hold it with your hands. It's going to cradle your head. You're going to take your elbows about to that position again, right? Like a little wider than your shoulders towards the ceiling, but not all the way up to the ceiling. That'll give you the wide shoulder blade feeling and everything we've been working on. If you have the strap, you're going to take your hands overhead and grab the strap. Hands shouldn't be touching your head. They should be a little higher on the strap. And then you're going to put your elbows in that same position again. So not quite in line with your shoulders, but not super wide, just a little bit more open. And that lets the shoulder blades be wide. So long preparation into this, but the elbows make a big difference on this one. So hopefully you find that place. Now, whichever way you're going to do it, you're going to think of the head pretty heavy, the chest relaxed, and then your strap or your towel is going to carry your head up as your arms lift you up off the floor, either holding the edges of the towel and bringing your head up or holding the strap and bringing your head up. And see if you can feel that upper back open position. Nice relaxed head and neck. Think of the head dropping a little more into your towel or into your strap. Not falling backwards, just heavy, heavy bowling ball head. Your arms have to pull you. Your abdominals have to pull you. And then coming down. So let's play with that a little bit. Find your elbow position. Let your arms take hold of your prop. And then because you bring the towel up, because you bring the strap up, the head gets lifted. Head doesn't have to lift itself. And then once the head's off the floor, then can you start to feel that open upper back you felt in the roll down? And let the upper back come off the floor too. Little check-in at the top. Is your head still heavy? Is your neck still relaxed? And then keeping that feeling as you roll down. Two more times. Pause at the top. And back down. One more time, last one. And relax at the bottom. Let your arms rest. And take a couple breaths. Observe how things feel in your head, forehead, jaw, neck, shoulders, upper back, breath, area. And then bring yourself up to sitting and take away your prop, your strap, or your towel. Okay, so a moment ago I mentioned hugging a tree. Now, you may or may not fancy yourself a tree hugger, I don't know, but you've seen a tree and you know what it's like to put your arms all the way around the tree. So what if that was what you were doing in this moment, right? Like arms around a really broad surface. So we're going to like just kind of play with that motion a little bit. Hands a little lower than your shoulders, elbows still a little lifted. So open the arms up. Here you are. You found your way. Your head is right up against the tree. Your chest is right up against the tree. And you just kind of reach out and around the tree. And then open it back up. Play with it a couple times. One of the reasons that hug a tree idea I think is so effective is it makes you reach out, right? Like maybe your tree is just a little bigger than you can reach around, right? And so you're having to reach out and open your back a little more to do it, right? If you have a smaller tree, that's really different, right? But your tree trunk is just a little too big for your arm span. You're trying to reach around and get fingertip to fingertip. You can't quite make it. So you open the upper back a little more, widen the shoulder blades without pushing your head forward, right? You don't want your head stuck in the tree. Open. You could be like Winnie the Pooh, halfway into a little hole in the tree. Don't be like that. Yeah? Now, we're going to use that feeling as you take one leg forward, other knee bent. So we've done this exercise before, but just a little different focus here. Curl the hips under a little bit. Reach around to that kind of hug a tree place. Elbows, right? You can't hug your tree this way. It's not going to work. You've got to keep them out and wide. Your upper back has to open a little bit. We're going to round the spine. Draw the ribs in, draw the belly in. Now remember that head neck alignment you just had with the strap? Can you find it here sitting up or something similar? Tip yourself back halfway. Once you're halfway back, you're probably looking straight ahead. With the upper back open, the blades open, the back of the neck open like you had the strap, and your hands in that hug a tree place. Tip yourself forward. Take it a couple times. Once you're halfway back, pause. Do a little check-in. Find that towel strap feeling again. And tip forward. And then if you want this time, take it lower. Halfway back is good if that works. If you want a little more, take it back to kind of that little crunch place. Upper back open. Head and neck in line. Hug your tree, press your leg, bring yourself forward. One more, maybe you go all the way down if you want, or halfway, or 3/4 of the way. And then we'll try the other leg. Bending your knee, tip back on your pelvis, a little behind your pelvis. Hug a tree. Halfway back. Pelvis curls under. Take a look in front of you. Feel like you have the towel or the strap. Wide blade, soft chest. As your leg pushes forward, doesn't mean your head has to come forward. Right? Head can stay in line over the shoulders still. Relaxed, open neck. You don't have to use that for this exercise. Halfway back and pause. And then back up. 3/4 of the way if you like. One more time, all the way down if you like. And all the way up. Okay, so all this focus, right, on getting this position, this upper body curl, abdominal work, open shoulder blades. And all the focus on that so that we create the lever of your inversion at this place right here, instead of the lever of your inversion being at this place right here. So what do I mean by that? If I were to do like a shoulder stand, right, there'd have to be some hinge. Well, it's not an exact hinge, but there'd have to be some hinge where that curve happens, where there's an up and then it changes to that flat. And a lot of people have learned an inverted position where the hinge is way up on the neck and on the shoulders. I get really tightly grabbing in my neck. And that the goal would be to be really flat hinging at that neck place. And I think for a lot of people, they're sort of worried about doing that kind of position. It's a lot of strain on the neck, it's a lot of pressure on the neck, it's a lot of tension, doesn't quite feel so good. Pilates has a really different view of how you do that work. And we make the hinge a little lower. We also make it a little less of a hinge. We make it a little more of a J, right? As opposed to an L. And so when we think about creating that lift to invert, the upper back is where you're balancing. And then the rib is more where you think, that low rib place is more where you think. I'm less straight up and down. I'm not even really a J, right? My legs are a little forward. Maybe my pelvis is hanging down a little. But notice what I can do with my relaxed head and neck, that there's a possibility there. And I feel like my actual shoulder blades on the floor and my upper back on the floor. My head and neck can be really relaxed here. Now, we're not going into that right away, but just to give you a feel of like, this is kind of what we're playing with. How do we get this inverted space without just pushing everything right onto the neck, creating all that tension? So we're going to go into shoulder bridge, right? Don't have to get all the way up in that position. Shoulder bridge, again, starts in inversion by the pelvis being higher than the shoulders. But we're going to play with that same feeling as we go into bridge, trying to find that feeling. So if you'll allow me to do one more demonstration. I know I'm always antsy to move, so you might be moving already, but If you'll look at one more thing in bridge, you see the beginning of that very often. People pulling their shoulders together and really finding the balance by lifting the chest, tightening the neck, and then getting on the tops of the shoulders. And sometimes, you know, it's even taught that way, to like pull everything together and be way up on your head and neck. One of the things I learned, different approach in Pilates, was to keep the weight more on the upper back, not on the neck as you go up into bridge. So as I come up, I keep the ribs really heavy. I feel that nice open upper back place. Now my pelvis can still go really high. There's potential for that. It takes a while to find that flexibility if you're used to doing it the other way. But I can still get a lot of opening in my pelvis. My neck, my upper back all gets to be really open and released, and the pressure is happening right through this space through here. So let's play with that shoulder bridge. Heels in line with your sits bones. Knees reaching forward. And find that upper back place. If you like, another way to practice this is arms up to the ceiling, if that helps you feel that upper back open position. I'll leave it up to you, whichever you like. Rolling up through the pelvis, through the lower back. Feel the upper back really broad, shoulder blades really broad. Space between your chin and your chest. Now you might start this out with your pelvis a little lower than you're used to in order to feel your chest and your chin having some space, your upper back open, all that stuff. Find your edge, wherever that is, and then just explore it. Maybe if you push your feet a little more, but think of leaving the upper back open, you might feel like, ooh, I just cranked it up a quarter of an inch, but I'm still relaxed in my neck. I'm still sinking the ribs. Or you might just find leaving your hips lower gives you a lot of work, and you just stay with that. Rolling down. Take that a couple times. Pressing your feet, relax your neck and your jaw, open your back. Roll through the pelvis, roll through the spine. Knees go forward. Chest relaxes. Open back of the neck. Rolling back down. One more time. And notice the relationship. As your hips come higher, does your neck get tighter? That's not unusual. But does it have to get tighter? Could you let it go? Is it worth lifting your hips that high if you can't let it go? Rolling back down. Okay, so one nice thing I find about that, like as I roll down in between, if I do it that way, it sort of feels like each time I roll down, there's a little more length in my neck. Like just doing it like that, as I come down, my neck feels like, oh, I just found a little more space. Oh, I just found a little more space. because instead of trying to use the neck to lift the chest, I'm trying to get the legs to do a little more work to lift the pelvis and let the chest relax and breathe a little more. I find it actually creates a little more space in the back of the neck, which is generally nice for most of us. Yeah. So one more thing on the floor here, and then maybe we'll play a little bit with standing up again, is the rolling like a ball. We're going to play with rolling like a ball. So there's an inversion there. It's an inversion with momentum, which is a little tricky sometimes, but it gives me that feeling. It's really great for the vestibular system, actually, because you're going back and forth. So it's really giving you a lot about balance and righting yourself. And I'm going to go for that same thing when I roll back and forth and rolling like a ball. My goal is to get to that right in between the shoulder blade position, not on my head and my neck, space between my chin and my chest place. So that's my goal, right? As I roll back, I'm not trying to go way up onto the head and the neck and get stuck. It's not really my goal. My goal is to find the in between the shoulder blades place and still have this kind of free head and neck. My head doesn't actually touch the floor. And at the same time, there's space here. Now, I say that's my goal because if my back is kind of tight, I might not be able to make it there. Well, there you go. Sometimes that's life. I'm going to do what I can, though. I'm going to try to feel the upper back open, feel the belly in, feel the hips curled under. Over time, I'll probably make it there, but maybe not today. So hands on your knees if your back is a little tight, hands on your ankles if you think that works for you and your back's a little more open. You could also play with just a little bit of back and forth. Feel like this rolling onto the upper back isn't so great for you. You could just tip back and forth a little bit as well. So let's play with it a little bit. Inhale, find the suspension, suspending the pelvis over the upper back. I'm rolling through. Your elbows have a little bit of hug-a-tree. Shoulder blades are wide. Two more. And then relaxing and resting. Such cool exercise, right? You're getting that inversion. You're having to control your momentum, but also the momentum is maybe helping you get there a little bit too. Okay, let's work up to standing again. So come over onto your hands and knees, let's say. Hands a little in front of your shoulders. Remember a long time ago when we did the strap, arms reaching overhead? Think of that feeling again. Send your butt back a little bit. Feel your shoulder blades float up on your spine, even though your back is still wide. Tuck your toes. Downward dog. Here we are again. Pelvis over the head. Decompressing the spine by letting the head release. Using your belly to lift your pelvis up a little bit. Hands press into the floor as the blades get a little wider. Look into your hands, step your feet forward, lengthening your spine out, looking forward. Exhale, release everything upside down. And then arms reach out, spine lengthens up, opening your chest. And exhale, arms down. So let's just do a little bit of standing work standing poses, stepping your feet wide apart. Let's go left toes out and right toes in. Now, take a moment before we do anything. Just find it all again. Easy chest. Maybe you felt some of that length in your neck that I was talking about. So great, let's use this when you're standing. Head just kind of floats back, chest relaxes. Nice, easy, long neck. Exhale, bending your knee. And inhale, straightening. And one more time, bending. Hold the position. Right foot in the floor, outside edge of the foot in the floor. Now, remember when you had your strap out in front of you, where your blades were, how your chest was soft and your triceps gave that little bit of pull. There are a lot of things to remember. Head and chin back in line with the spine. As you open your arms to the side, can you keep your blades wide? Your chest relaxed. A little bit of that upper back tricep work holding you together. And then if you like, turn your head to look over your left fingers. And then back up. Left toes turn in, right toes turn out. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. And one more time, bending and holding that. Arms like you had the strap. Check in with your stuff. Pulling out, opening the back. Easy chest, chin. Arms open, supported by your triceps, your wide shoulder blades. And then turn, if you like, to look over your right fingertips. And coming up and back to center. Right toes turn in, left toes turn out, and bending your left knee. Shifting, long shift to the diagonal. Hand on your knee. I've been watching Scott do hand on the knee, and I think, oh, that's kind of a nice position. It gives me sort of that shoulder blade feeling as I push a little bit into the knee. Nice open upper back feeling. Right arm reaches forward, wide shoulder blade. Reach it up overhead. And then if you like, turning to look over your right shoulder. But still nice broad upper back. It's kind of hard in this one to keep the blades wide. Can you feel your upper back still broad? And then back up. Left toes in, right toes out. Bending. Shifting your pelvis. Hand on your knee. Really broad. A little bit of push. Left arm forward. Gliding it out. And turning. And then coming back to center. Let's take both toes turned in. We'll go back to that passive decompressing the spine. Forward bend. Hands on your hips. A little lift up through the spine. Exhale, coming forward, folding at the hips.
to a flat back position. Now, your knees could be bent here if you want. They could be straight, long back of the neck, wide shoulder blades. Let's come forward however much you need to place your hands on the floor. Bend your knees however much you need to place your hands on the floor right under your shoulders. Then with a little bit of push, feel the blades wide, feel the upper back open, and let your spine start to round. Your head start to release, neck lengthens, upper back lengthens. And if you find, yeah, I could straighten my legs a little more now, that's fine, but not necessary. You don't have to do that necessarily. And also if you find, oh, I can walk my hands a little farther back, a little closer to my feet, and still feel the whole hand on the floor, also fine. Can you get a little bit of push through your hand into your shoulder blades to open your upper back and release your neck? As you exhale, can you feel the weight of your abdominal organs dropping onto your diaphragm and just doing some of that exhale for you? Everything hangs. Lengthening your spine back out to a flat back. Hands come onto your hips. And all the way back up to standing. And then stepping your feet back together. Okay, so we're going to find an unglamorous way to the floor, however you like. I mean, it could be glamorous if you want to be glamorous as you go to the floor. Right. It doesn't have to be glamorous. So let's do just a little bit of rotation, just to kind of integrate, a little bit of twisting. So I'm sitting cross-legged. You could sit on a stool, you could sit on a blanket. If you like your legs in front of you, all of it's fine. We're just going to get some rotation, however you like. Starting with the head, this trickle-down twist Scott talks about. Turning to look over your shoulder. And around through the rib cage. You can take the right hand back, the left hand across. Still really wide through your back, soft through your chest, rotating around. And then coming back to center. Taking the direction the other way. Easy, soft neck. Right hand comes across, left hand goes back. Notice your shoulder blades. Can you keep them pretty wide? Letting the rib cage turn, not just your shoulder blades move. And then coming back to center. And then wherever you're at, if you want to lie on your back, you can. But if you're feeling pretty comfortable sitting, let's do just a couple breaths here. You can have your eyes closed or your gaze lowered. And observe all your upper body connections that we worked on. Notice your breath. Find ease where you'd like ease. Imagine length and floating where you want that. Simple balance in the skeleton, balancing the bones, not grabbing with the muscles so much.
And then opening your eyes. And maybe coming back up to sitting if you've reclined. So I'm noticing a lot of little chats come in. I'm going to check those and see if there's some questions to look at. Okay, my goodness. Yes. Good, good. I have poor posture so much so that my head is very far forward when I'm moving around without consciously thinking about it. So when I tuck my chin in to create the double chin, I notice a lot of tension. Any suggestions for how to release that besides maybe not pulling my chin in as far back or focusing on relaxing my neck? Those things do help. Yeah, I mean, I love it when you answer your own question there. Maybe not pulling your chin in so far might be useful. It's just like a tight hamstring. Just because you know you're supposed to release your hamstring doesn't mean you can just do the splits, right? So sometimes we overdo it with other body parts. Like we accept that a little more with the legs. Like, oh yeah, I can just only straighten it so much. But we don't always have that same sensibility with the head. So you are having to reorganize and release a lot of things. And some of those muscles just may not release far enough to let you bring it all the way back. So you have to start slowly, like bring it to the place you can where it feels like you're getting that exchange, right? You're not adding more tension, but as you bring the head back, maybe some new muscles come on, but others let go until you can find that nice balance of like, okay, I've got some new supporting muscles on and others are starting to let go until you can work your way back into position. Sometimes there's a little arthritis. Sometimes there's things going on in the lower back. That's part of your head being pulled forward. So a little bit at a time is always a good way to look at that change. And certainly focusing on relaxing the neck as you go. It just takes a little bit of time. There are some different exercises for that. Maybe you've done this. A lot of people have done this in PT where you have a blanket and you lie with your head, probably something thicker than this towel. But just as an example, you can lie with your head on the blanket, your shoulders on the floor, and you actually just practice a little bit pressing the head slightly down without gripping in a bunch of extra places, and then relaxing that. And you press a little down into the blanket and release it. And it's very specifically focused on the muscles that need to release and engage to get the head back in a just very controlled way. So that might be a thing to play with and see if you start to notice 5, 10 of those and then lie on your back and breathe. Maybe you do that every day for a little bit and see if you notice a shift in how that neck changes. Cool. I think that was maybe the only question. This was fun. I will see you next week and have a good October, first weekend in October. Bye.